that, it's time to travel. I don't know how we transition from that into what we're going to transition.
There's no good way.
Like,
We just gotta.
It's slightly better. And now comics. Although it's kind of that. With that, we'll get ready to summon the Bifrost and travel into the DCEU to discuss Zack Snyder's creative vision. Now, as always, with the Bifrost, it will keep us connected to Starbinger Base and all of our tricks and devices here, including the cannon, which we probably won't use for this trip. Whether or not this film experience is canon or not is something of a debate right now and an open question for executives and rooms and whatever else. But you probably won't be hearing the canon. But if we have hot takes along the way, we'll sound the hot take alarm. On your heads be it. And if anything really blew our minds, we'll let loose with a seismic mind charge. Now, this version of the movie has recently been released, and even though it's a previously unseen version of a movie that has been out for years, since 2017, it's really, come on, it's an entirely new experience. It's not even funny how different a movie it is. So even if you've seen the thing from 2017 but you haven't watched this yet, there's a lot to spoil here, and we don't want to spoil a single minute of these 4 hours for any of you. So with that, we'll sound the spoiler klaxon. That's right. Did you know, Caitlin, that I was in the running to play Alfred, but they said I was too talented, so it went to my best friend Jeremy Irons, except that's not true, and I don't know Jeremy Irons, but I imagine he's a good guy. He's a good Alfred.
Mr. Wayne.
Faith, Alfred. Faith, Mr. Wayne. In your dreams, Alfred, here's how you make tea, Gal Gadot. And what is there, Caitlin and Bush?
There's a clear order in which you should watch Zack Snyder's Justice League and then listen to this podcast.
Okay, here we go again. Everybody ready?
Okay.
We just stand in a circle
right,
now.
here we go.
You don't have to be in a
Ah,
particular spot. We
last-
dispense with
last
the
time
missile
was
softy
rough.
machine. And Matt, as we promised, once we get there, you're in charge. So
Okay.
it's all you. I can't
All right.
believe I just said
I'm
that. All
very
right,
nervous.
Caitlin, once again, Matt, you too. Let's go
Yeah.
to a nice releve.
Yes.
Let's make sure this
Oh,
one's
wait,
gonna.
I'm doing
Deep breaths.
the yoga. The yoga. pose. Yep.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy Bifrost. And
do it.
again, Matt, you said Smallville. If I end up in Arkham Asylum, I will be very upset.
Yeah, no,
Okay?
we're aiming right for Smallville. Like nice, beautiful Kansas City, Kansas
Plugging it in.
State. Not in the same place. Okay.
Kansas State.
No, Caitlin's on the line, and you're saying
Got it.
stuff like that.
Yeah, no,
You
got
gotta-
it. Yeah,
you gotta
don't
watch
worry.
that,
No,
okay.
got it. We're gonna land.
Okay.
Yep, we're gonna land right in the right
I
spot.
know where you live, Matthew.
Coordinates are set. Lightsaber ready. Hold on to your butts.
Oh, jeez!
Okay.
How is that somehow worse than last time?
It was actually a little better for me this time, but there's like
Really?
a weird
Yeah.
taste in the back of my mouth.
Oh man!
Yeah, I feel good.
Oh, God.
but wait a
You
minute.
did this on purpose. I don't know how,
Imagination.
but
It's a little dark, rainy, and horrible here. Oh my!
So-
Oh my God! Are we in Gotham? Oh my goodness!
we better not be.
Oh.
You better not have put us in Gotham.
Oh no! Oh no! I think we're in Gotham. Look at all the Art Deco. It is beautiful here. The bridges. Do you
Art
see
Dec-
all this? Wow.
Art Dec- oh, okay. I don't see any neon, so I don't think we're in Joel Schumacher's.
No. We're in Art Deco Tim Burton Gotham. Yes.
Tim Burton.
Yeah.
I feel very
Yeah,
unsafe here.
Yeah, this one's the not safe
I
one.
feel very
Yeah.
unsafe here. I'm
Yeah,
just
you're
saying.
just gonna get mugged
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah.
We should just duck into this little corner here and just do the show right
That's,
here. Yeah.
we're gonna do it in an alley.
Yeah, in an alley. Yeah. Nothing bad has ever happened in an alley in
the
DC.
Batman universe.
Yeah.
Except that-
Nothing.
To quote a friend of ours, if I have to see those pearls hit the ground
One more time.
Oh no! Well, and I'll tuck these pearls into my shirt that I'm wearing here. I won't show you guys. Yeah,
I should have worn my pearls.
But anyway, welcome
This
to
is-
the Zack Snyder Justice League main discussion.
Oh my God.
Oh, once in a lifetime discussion here happening. Can you believe that we're talking about this, guys?
No. Never in a million. I also never thought that this movie would see the light of day. First of all,
it's an amazing, incredible story.
yeah. The entire saga of how it came to be is wild and like 4 years long too.
And we're going to get into that, but first, I think it would be good, as we did for the WandaVision episode, let's level set on
Yeah.
where we are in terms of DC fandom. Like, what's our favorite things? You know, are we big fans? Favorite characters, TV shows, movies, comics? Go. Caitlin Bush. Caitlin Manhunter, Martian Manhunter Bush. Go first.
There we go. Thank you. So I was never big into DC Comics in any way. That was not my thing. I was a Marvel kid. But I did grow up watching like the Teen Titans show on Cartoon Network. That was my jam. That was kind of my first introduction, other than maybe watching some of like the original Batman and Superman movies. Watched a little bit of the old Batman show from back in the day that was like kooky and crazy and absolutely wonderful with Adam West. And most of my experience with DC was movies, was television, especially animated stuff. And also, I really loved just DC lore. I loved the characters that they were playing with. I think it's really fascinating. And a lot of my experience has to do with being on Tumblr and online and kind of following kind of these narratives that people have built around these characters that have been around for so long. I would argue that the fandom of DC was always, in my experience, more invested in the comics than Marvel people were for a very long time. And the way that that's translated into the films now is very interesting to me.
Brian, same question.
I think we talked about this when we talked about Marvel. I grew up with Batman, not any of the other DC characters, but I grew up with Batman. And that when the 89 Batman came out, that was a big deal. That was a big deal. And they were taking Batman seriously. And so I was always into Batman. And I loved the Batman, but never the comics. I liked the Batman movie. I loved the Batman, the animated series. And then the Justice League series when that came out. And then there was a period after the first 4 Bat movies that I was like, okay, we're done with that now. It's over. And then comic book movies had this huge resurgence with Blade, X-Men, Spider-Man, and everything else. And Batman said, it's coming back. It's going to be with Christopher Nolan. It's going to be Batman Begins. And I said, I don't think I care about this. I said, I don't, I know how, what do I need to know how it begins? I don't care about this. It's already done.
Well, you talk about pearls falling in an alley.
Well, yeah. And then I'm like, all right, fine. I'll go and see it. I'll go and see this. But you think you know everything you know about Batman. And then I went and this is having read no Batman comics at all. So of course it was a ludicrous. And I went to see that movie and I was knocked flat by that movie. That movie was, in a lot of ways, in some ways it's my favorite, because it just showed me, it's like, nothing. It's like you've been following this character forever. And yeah, I knew kind of Batman, but I didn't know Bruce Wayne. At least I didn't root for Bruce Wayne. Like when I used to play Batman as a kid, I wouldn't pretend that he was just Batman. There was no alter ego. He was just a nobody why did he choose bats? Who never figured that one out. Yeah. So that movie made me understand, but not just understand, but care about Bruce Wayne. It made me root for Bruce Wayne in a way I never had before. It made me love Alfred in a way I never had before. It made me love Jim Gordon in a way. And I came out of that and I just wanted more. And someone's like, well, they're based on comics. I said, yeah, I know. And so, but I really
heard about these Batman comic books.
But
Push his glasses
I
up.
wanted more. And so I went, and of course, all of the standby comics that these weren't new, but these were comics that they leaned on for that movie and for the 89 Batman too. But Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One and those and The Long Halloween. And I just went on this spree and I bought all of them and I just downed all of these Batman comics. And then I also branched out. I'm like, well, what else do they have? And it was all DC stuff. It was Watchmen and then I got into some Alan Moore stuff, and that was where I read my first Superman comic, which was For the Man Who Has Everything. And that really got me interested in Superman. And so the door kind of opened from there. It was, I couldn't stop with the DC comics, and I just wanted all of them. And it wasn't until much later that I read the Marvel comics that I got it. I was much more into DC. And like Caitlin said, the lore and mythology of DC just had me. It really, really had me. It was fascinating to me then, and it's fascinating to me now.
Who'd have thunk it that like we all have, I think, similar backstories in terms of that. Like I'm a huge DC fan, always have been. It was always DC first for me when I was a kid. Just like you, Brian, read all the DC comic books. It was years before I started reading Marvel comic books. Because for Marvel, it was like all about the animation for me. When we talked about this in WandaVision, X-Men and the Spider-Man Fox series, that stuff is all great. For DC, it was really the death of Superman, which I also spoke about in WandaVision, I think.
Right.
But like that was just an explosive comic book moment in the 90s, blew the doors off the industry, unprecedented at the time, even though, we kill superheroes every day, now these days, and they come back to life and they die and they come back to life. But that was really like my gateway into the DC universe. And then, because of the death of Superman in the 90s, like you got Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
Right. Oh, I was super into that show.
Loved that show. And then, of course, Batman, the animated series, loved that show.
Yeah.
And like that show did everything for me in terms of Batman, like that, in terms of getting all immersed in like the Batman world. Learned more about Batman in the animated series than I did.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
That show was incredible. That show was full stop incredible.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And then the spin-offs like Superman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited, like DC animation has always been light years ahead of everybody. And Caitlin, you mentioned Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, which is hilarious,
delightful. Has no right to be as good as it is.
My heart just laced up its dancing shoes, baby.
I can't believe Caitlin hasn't mentioned what I know is her favorite.
Young Justice.
Yeah.
And Young Justice.
Caitlin loves Young Justice. If we're talking animation, well, not even animation. If we're talking like right now, DC, we were talking last night. I mentioned this before too. I love Doom Patrol because it's so weird. I came to love anything Grant Morrison writes for DC or Marvel. They just have this weird mentality that I just sync with. So anything they write, I'm into, and a lot of Doom Patrol borrows from their run, but also the Harley Quinn series, Matt. I know you and I have talked about that before. That is so bloody funny.
After everything I did for them.
You could blow them up.
Nah, not really my thing.
I could blow them up.
Nah.
And you know what? I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Like, I think one of the beauties of DC versus Marvel, because listen, they're different, they're allowed to be different, and it's okay that those two properties are different.
They scratch different itches.
Yeah, and that's what makes being a fan of both so much fun, because on the MCU side, you have a very straightforward and coherent narrative universe, like everything affects each other, whatever. On DC, you get all these different flavors of stories and characters. Like there's the Cyborg in Doom Patrol, there's the Cyborg here in Snyder Cut, and
there's the Cyborg in Teen Titans Go, there's the Cyborg in the animated movies universe.
How many different cyborgs do we have? And it's like,
not enough. Keep them coming.
That's leaning in to the true like multiverse of fandom, and like I know now both Marvel and DC are striving towards, that whole multiverse idea, but I mean DC is light years ahead in terms of like the different offerings they have of particular titles.
I mean, they got into the game early. Even outside of, and everyone, when they're talking about DC versus Marvel, most of the time, if they're not talking about the big two, the comic book companies themselves, they're talking about the live action movie franchises.
Exactly.
Which at this point they're obviously they're big superhero blah, 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 making billions of dollars, made by billions of people with billions of dollars. But it's like comparing apples and oranges at this point.
Yeah. It's like comparing, Star Wars and Star Trek. I'm in one mood or I'm in the other.
They're both fruit. They're both space.
And they're both good for you. They're both real good for you.
Sometimes I'm in a serious Marvel mood. And that's what I want to do. I want to watch Marvel. I want to read Marvel, and that's that. Sometimes it's the other way. And I want to, it's like, okay, there's no new movie out. Well, that's what Arrowverse am I slow on, or am I late? Now, pretty much all of them except for Legends of Tomorrow.
We didn't even get into Arrowverse.
I know, and Arrowverse, and I'll be the first to say that's my first like DC blind spot. If that's the one area of DC universe that I have not been able to catch up with,
the first few seasons of all of them, stuff. I was really into them. I mean, Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, like I was so into all of those for a while, and then I eventually kind of petered out. But they did something very interesting in terms of crossovers with all of them.
Creating a universe in itself.
The Crisis on Infinite Earths, what they did with that, bringing in Bob Wool. And I mean, as a fan of the
freaking
89
Netflix Lucifer.
Batman, and also Ezra talking about the DCEU, Ezra Miller for a second. So it's all, it is kind of all tied together.
I did watch that one, even though I didn't watch. I did watch.
Well,
you
had. I mean, you had to. It's I'm behind on all of them except for Legends of Tomorrow, which is just so wacky and so go for broke bonkers that I absolutely adore that one.
Oh, and we have to. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Smallville. I love Smallville.
Everybody stand back.
Yep.
Somebody save me! Oh my!
Whoa, sorry.
Good
No good.
Lord,
Whoa.
you just screamed right in the microphone. I'm like, I'll be back.
Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry. Just a huge fan.
Well, and Clark Kent, he can't get in front of Lana Lang without dropping to his knees. I wonder if it's that necklace.
Wonder if it's the necklace or
he was
the kryptonite
good.
monsters.
He was good in that
great.
role. He was good.
Yeah, he was. I mean, everybody was good. That show really developed into something too. Talk about it was like early Arrowverse. By the end of that show, they had every character imaginable on Smallville.
Literally, there's not a single Superman adjacent character that is.
They all stopped by Smallville on their way to Metropolis, which
in Kansas, middle of nowhere,
right.
Kansas.
They even had Michael McKean as a young Perry White down on his luck report.
Everybody came by,
and I say middle of nowhere, Kansas. As a person from Missouri, so I've been in middle of nowhere, Kansas. I know where this place is, and everyone's just there. Apparently, everyone's just there.
Well, anyway, so DC, we love it. So much DC to love. And I love it or hate it. Here's a piece of DC that exists. And I personally, in the lead up to the Snyder Cut, I was excited about it as a thing. I think just like Star Wars, I can find and appreciate things in all of Star Wars. There's my favorite movies or not my favorite movies, but at the end of the day, it's all Star Wars, and I love it. And there's moments that I could pick out of it and really enjoy.
Sometimes it takes you a little while to find them.
And I'll ebb and flow. I mean, one day I'll like this, one day I'll like that. But hey, that's
we're all
freedom.
Imperfect creatures.
We're all imperfect creatures.
Speak for yourself.
Anyway, Zack Snyder's Justice League, a.k.a. The Snyder Cut, streaming now on HBO Max. Zack Snyder's Justice League arrives 4 years after the original theatrical release of Justice League in 2017. Although that version of the film is officially credited to Snyder, it is far from what he originally envisioned for the film.
It's not even funny how far it is.
So what happened? Well, something really awful, sad, and tragic happened. Months into the production of Justice League, Snyder's daughter died by suicide, and Snyder left the production before he could finish the film. Just a really horrible and tragic situation, and you can't blame Zack Snyder. What are you going to do? He has to take care of his family. So he left the production. So Warner Brothers, though, are still determined to finish the film and make its release date. So they call on the director of Marvel's Avengers, Joss Whedon, to finish the movie. Whedon's work on the movie included 2 months of reshoots and significant changes to the script. According to a New York Times article, supposedly Whedon wrote up to 80 pages of new script, suggesting that the majority of the 2017 theatrical version is more his movie versus Snyder's.
You can tell.
Yeah, and it's very clear. The tone, the color, the humor, everything. But regardless, Whedon is only credited as a screenwriter alongside the original screenwriter Chris Terrio, which is I found to be just
very interesting.
Contracts are weird.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, how this mashed up Whedon Snyder version come out? Well, not great. It's panned by critics and fans alike. General consensus on the film is that it's uneven. The two directors' distinct filmmaking styles clearly don't vibe well together. Whedon injecting a lot of his trademark Marvel quip humor, but it all just falls flat and in retrospect, very misogynistic and just flat out disrespectful of like Wonder Woman. And Caitlin, we were talking about this last night.
Yeah, I think if you go back and watch the Justice League 2017, every single one of, other than I think Superman, every single one of the other male characters has like a weird, disrespectful or like weirdly sexually charged moment with Wonder Woman, which is, I think there's that moment in which Flash falls on her boobs. There's the moment where Arthur sits on the lasso and starts babbling about how hot she is. And then she gives a weird like massage to Bruce at one point in the Batcave. Like it's just it's icky.
It's out of all the things you can give Wonder Woman to do, and especially in light of what what she's doing in the Snyder cut, it's like,
and especially in her own movies too.
Yeah, exactly. Very out of
Like
character.
the whiplash of going from Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman and then watching Justice League 2017 is bonkers.
Yeah.
It is absolutely bonkers to watch that transition, and just it's a completely different character.
Yeah, totally. It's also fair to say that Whedon wasn't alone in making these changes either, because Warner Brothers was very much pushing him to lighten up the tone of the film, especially in the wake of Snyder's previous entry into the DCEU Batman vs. Superman, which was also panned by critics. But that's a whole other thing that we won't get into in this episode. But fact remains that the studio was very much involved in the direction Whedon took Justice League in Snyder's absence. So now let's jump ahead. Justice League 2017, it's released. Everyone has their opinions about it. You know, some people don't like it. There are some people that like it. You know, there are things to enjoy, I guess. But regardless, it's debated. It's debated. It's highly debated.
Heavily.
And so begins a chain of events so wild and crazy. I think it's fair to say we've never seen anything like this happen in film before, better or for worse, let alone entertainment in general. Rumors start spreading about footage cut out of the theatrical cut. Little by little, more and more is learned about Snyder's original story and what he intended for the film, some of which leaked by Snyder himself. And boom, with that, fans unite on social media, and the Release the Snyder Cut movement is born.
Yep.
And fans rally behind this hashtag and are relentless in their effort to court Warner Brothers into releasing the movie. In fact, I don't know how much we want to get into this, but we'd be also remiss if we didn't acknowledge the sometimes very toxic corners of this movement.
Yeah.
So just like with Star Wars, there's an underbelly to the fandom that harassed and bullied critics of Zack Snyder online. In particular, female critics got it pretty bad. And it's really, really unfortunate. And of course, we do not condone any of this absolutely whatsoever. Everyone is free to their own opinions and allowed to enjoy or not enjoy things. But when you're disrespectful and treat people badly over a superhero movie, that's just not cool.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of discussions about how we wanted to go about this, and we talk about Star Wars, as you said, Matt. Like, this is not the healthiest fandom always in the world, but we enjoy things and we love it and we respect it for what it is. But I think loving and respecting something doesn't mean that it's above criticism when the narrative around it is toxic. So, I mean, going into it, it's, despite it being a movie, it isn't actually just a movie due to the world that we live in. And it's not the movie's fault. It's not Zack or Deborah Snyder's fault, who is both his wife and his producing partner. It's not even the majority of fans' faults.
Yeah.
But as people who love Star Wars and DC and Marvel and just about every other big nerd franchise, we are not unfamiliar with the controversy that comes with fandom. Yeah. And as much love as there is, hate often rises up to meet it.
Right.
And there are so many facets to discuss. We're, like, as you said, we're not going to get into it because we could genuinely spend the entire 4 hours of this movie, like, just talking about this. But, there were fan campaigns to get it made and released. 99% of those people were really positive and just were either genuine Snyder fans or just who wanted to see what could have been. That idea of what if is very tantalizing.
Yeah.
Like, I fully think it is.
I was very much in that camp, and I personally hated how the underbelly of the movement overshadowed like a fan like myself, or Brian. I know you're just a fan of Zack Snyder. It's like there's no ill will here whatsoever. I just want to see a Justice League movie.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's not one of my favorite directors, but I do love watching Zack Snyder movies. I mean, Zack Snyder makes he makes Zack Snyder movies. He makes them better than anyone. And there's no mistaking it. There's a style. And sometimes you're really in the mood for that style. And that's why I was like the one person when it came out. I remember I gotten people threw rocks at me because I really enjoyed Man of Steel.
People love throwing rocks at you.
Yeah, they do. I really enjoyed Man of Steel.
It happens a lot.
And even though it has its faults, I love Man of Steel. Batman, Superman. I really enjoyed too, and I could see the flaws there. But I'd rather something have ambition, and go big. And I'd rather watch that than something that just sits there and is just kind of fine and apologizes for itself.
And clearly a lot of people agreed with you. I mean, I think there was the 1%, the very, very loud 1% of people who harassed others online, who disagreed with them, who were cruel and racist and sexist, and anyone who had a different opinion from them was kind of free range, and that sucks. And that was Zach and Deborah both spoke up and said, don't do this. This isn't cool. This isn't going to help anyone. And it's just unnecessary. But, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of it. But I would suggest that anyone who is interested in this, if you don't know the full context, there's a lot of great explainers and reported pieces online that's clocked the history and the entirety of this movement, including like the time that a bunch of very determined and positive Snyder Cut fans hired a plane to carry a banner over San Diego Comic-Con that said "Release the Snyder Cut."
Yeah, right.
Which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, insane, absolutely insane. And sadly, more complicated unpleasantness has surrounded the film beyond all this. There's also some serious allegations from Cyborg actor Ray Fisher and how he was treated during production, which we're not going to get into here, but encourage all of you to seek out that news yourselves.
Yeah. Legit sources, first tellings, quotes, legitimate, all of that.
Exactly. That's a whole other episode we can spend time on, and we won't, but, like Caitlin says, we encourage you all to seek out that news for yourselves. But anyway, enough of the bad stuff. Let's get back to how this magnificent 4-hour spectacle got made in the first place. So before I mentioned a crazy chain of events led to this cut being released, let's go through it quick. Fans unite behind the release the Snyder Cut hashtag, and it becomes a movement. People really care about it. The pandemic. Not only can people not go to the movies out of public safety concerns, but studios start pushing back releases and shutting down productions. HBO Max debuts. Warner Brothers is about to launch their new streaming network to compete with the likes of Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus, and they need content. So this is really the perfect storm. Here you have fans craving a specific type of content, which you have sitting on the editing room floor, and a director that wants to make a 4-hour version of it, which happens to be the perfect format for a streaming service.
For a thing that no one's going to go to a theater and watch a 4-hour movie.
Exactly. And a passionate fan base that will watch it over and over again from the comfort of their own homes.
I'd watch this in the theater. If it releases in the theater, I'll go and watch it. I'll sit on the aisle. For obvious reasons.
Why would you sit on the aisle?
So I can get to the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Because if some IMAX theaters you're in the center, it's like, you're going to try to sit on the aisle. But I'd definitely go if they release this on IMAX. I'd go and see it in the theater.
So anyway, they call up Zack Snyder. They give him $70 million, and he's signed up to finally release $70 million to finish the movie. He actually took no money to finish it personally. He did it on the same dime that he did the original movie, but they gave him $70 million in production dollars to finish the film and to complete his vision. So just a crazy perfect storm. And like I was saying at the top, like a chain of events that probably wouldn't necessarily happen again. If anything, maybe this was a grand experiment that taught, studios that they could resurrect content if enough people want it. But I think just like the chain of events of the movement, the pandemic, HBO Max kind of led to this happening. You both agree?
Well, yeah.
Perfect storm.
I mean, for something like this, for giving more money to add more and for it to be only streaming, because there is precedent. There's precedent for something like the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2.
Yes, right.
There's precedent there, but that didn't.
There's a difference between a regular director's cut.
Yeah, that was no new scenes were shot for that. They want to do one scene. They had to use a screen test to put in there. It is a completed movie that has the exact same ending as the first Superman, because that's how it was always going to end. But it's for me, I greatly prefer that cut. So,
Yeah.
but they didn't
Yeah,
film anything
seriously.
new. It's like, what do we have? What can we bring back and throw in there? There are other movies, say like Magnificent Ambersons. Well, they burned what was originally done. They can't do that. Here was an
Right.
instance, like you were saying, Matt. They had all the footage, and hopefully there won't be another pandemic anytime soon.
Yes,
So yeah,
yes.
I think this is a
Fingers
unicorn.
crossed.
Yeah.
I really do, especially 4 hours.
Yes.
I see it. It's a unicorn.
Well, speaking of 4 hours, we haven't even started talking about the movie, but that is our lengthy preamble on everything Snyder.
Preamble.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Without further ado, here is Zack Snyder's Justice League. So we open with a card that I was not anticipating.
This card is the movie. Also,
This is the movie.
This is
I mean,
the
like,
movie. This card lets you know what
Exactly.
you are about to
Right.
watch, and it's going to say what. I'll leave it.
It
to you.
says, this film is presented in 4:3 format to preserve the integrity of Zack Snyder's creative vision.
Right.
Now, for those of you not familiar with the terminology there, 4:3 format is a square, like your original, like your television set from the 90s. Like it is not
Yeah.
a widescreen format.
It's not a
It's
widescreen. Yeah.
standard edition format. And the reason being that he did this was it's the IMAX format, apparently. And I do believe IMAX can be multiple formats. I think that's the whole beauty of IMAX. But he decided he was going to stick with the 4:3 IMAX format, so he doesn't have to make different versions. I don't know, like
Which I mean, fair.
Sure, okay.
He redid
Sure.
some scenes in Batman Superman 2. If you have the digital cut of that, the digital
Yep.
copy of it, you now have that version because they did the thing that they
interesting.
changed, like they do with Star Wars all the time.
Interesting.
It's things like the nightmare scene there, other scenes. It's now in the 4:3. But yeah, that title card right there. It's like, this is the movie. The movie is.
Did this bother you guys? Did this bother you?
Yeah, I'm honestly apathetic about it. It's just Zack Snyder is a hilarious human being to me.
Well, I think he does things because he and I think he said this somewhere. I wish I pulled the quote, but he does these things to get because nobody else does them.
Right.
It's just crazy. Like to mention that they also dropped another cut of the Zack Snyder cut this week on HBO Max, the Justice is Gray edition, which he says is the definitive way to watch, and it's in black and white. So it's 4:3 black and white.
Which makes me think a lot of the most recent one that makes me think of that is the Chrome
the Fury
version.
Road,
Fury Road,
Mad Max
yes,
Fury Road.
which is awesome.
and the black and white version of Logan.
Right, which
Yep.
is also awesome.
Right.
I'll say, Matt, it's not so much the decision to do it in 4:3, it's the title card and the language of the
Announcing
title
it.
card.
It's
It's the language, his
There you go.
creative
This is-
vision.
This is the thing.
yes.
It's because it would. I see they like we have to put something in front of this because people are going to think their TVs are set wrong. So could
Right,
it just
which is
said,
fair.
"Hey, viewers, don't freak out. It's supposed to look like this,"
Yeah,
or something
that's
like that.
all they have to say.
Instead, this is scripted like it's pretty much a statement on.
Well,
this is
it's
what the
very
movie.
Zack
This
Snyder.
movie is. And I say this with love. This is why I really enjoy this movie. It's pretentious. It is really high on itself.
It knows what it
So
is.
high on
Yes,
itself. And
yes.
it's exactly it, Caitlin. It knows it. It knows it.
Yeah.
And it is it doesn't care what you think of it being those things. It revels in being those things. It's so pretentious. It's going to give you 4 hours of it. And I'm just into it. I'm like, yeah, it knows what it is. It's honest unto itself. And that title card right there, it's like, if that has you rolling your eyes, well, get ready for 4 hours of eye rolling. I was like, this is the greatest opening to a movie I've ever seen.
And also, it's pretty much HBO Max like saying, direct all complaints to Zack Snyder. It's
Right.
like, this wasn't
That's
us.
fair.
You know,
It's
it's
like,
like,
look,
HBO Max is all about 4K,
That's what I'm doing
16
with this
by 9.
episode. If people don't like, look, this
It's
is
an
Matt
editor's
Romano's creative vision. This has nothing to do with me. It's about artistic. And speaking of somebody who has no vision or integrity, it's he has a vision. Whether you like that vision or not is everyone's to decide. It's personally, I went for it. And I couldn't believe the balls, for lack of a way to say, to open a movie with that title card. And I text it to people all the time.
No, it's one of my favorite things and one of my new favorite memes. But anyway, let's get into the creative vision. So this movie is split up into parts, which is interesting because it's not available in parts on HBO Max, but there are chapter markers. So you could watch this any way you want. You could watch it one part at a time. You could watch the whole thing in one sitting. I did it in one sitting. It was tough, but I made it. Here we go. So the prologue, we'll start there. 9 minutes the prologue clocks in as. So let me run through the highlights. We open with some slow motion sequences that effectively recap the events of Batman vs. Superman. We pick up with the death of Superman killed by Doomsday at the end of BVS. We also see Lex Luthor communing with Steppenwolf over at the Kryptonian ship, which at the end credits teaser of BVS, I believe. It was added later. But basically he's like making the call to Darkseid. And basically it notifies Darkseid that the mother boxes, the MacGuffins of this movie.
Notifying Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Steppenwolf we see. It's like, the bell has been rung.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They contact the bad guys, that's basically what happens.
Hey, bad guys.
Hey, bad guys, we got these 3 boxes, come down to Earth, whatever. So basically, the mother boxes, they're like the MacGuffins of this movie in the DC universe, and their power is, when combined, there's 3 of them on Earth, and when combined, they can turn a planet into an apocalypse type world. An apocalypse is the home of Darkseid, who is the big bad of the DC universe, and it's basically like a hell planet. Like, just a lot of fire and just demons, hell, and these boxes can turn Earth into it. More than a hell that it already is.
What if we called it Apocalypse Gardens? Would that? No, it's like, no, sir.
Let's rebrand.
It's still a fiery hell planet.
No,
I don't think the gardens is going to help. Okay, I was just floating.
It's still horrible. So anyway, the 3 boxes on Earth right now, there's one with the Amazonians, there's one with the Atlanteans, and a TBD. There's the super scream heard round the world. Apparently Superman's screams are like shockwaves that make their way across the world. And when the shockwave of Superman's scream touches a mother box, it activates.
It activates, apparently.
Well, it knows.
So I can't believe that's a sentence I just said.
It's no longer afraid. It knows that he's dead.
Yeah.
So now it's time to wake on up.
It's just really funny.
But he's only been around for 30 years anyway, or 35 years anyway. So,
but it knew he.
But
was
maybe they needed
coming.
a scream. They knew. I don't know.
Earth's mightiest hero.
Yeah. There you go. Don't dig too deep. Don't dig too deep. So anyway, so this awakens those the mother boxes. And we're off and running. Okay, so now we're past the prologue and we're jumping into part 1. Don't count on it, Batman. Clocking in at 30 minutes. So Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, the Batfleck, is horseback riding along an icy mountain ridge looking for Aquaman, portrayed here by Jason Momoa. And as we know from BVS, Bats has been tracking super people for some time now, so he's picked up the scent of Arthur Curry, also known as the Aquaman, and has tracked into a quaint yet creepy fishing town on some unnamed,
Scandinavian isle.
And it's worth mentioning that he does not say, heard you can talk to fish. He does not say that.
So Bruce confronts Aquaman. Aquaman is basically like, no thanks. And then we get a creepy song from the locals as Aquaman removes his sweater and swims away. So next, we get a quick glimpse.
Can I just mention, Matt, in terms of,
please,
because this is a little different now because we've all seen Aquaman, the movie. We're used to Jason Momoa in this part. If this would have been the first time we're seeing him in this role, and it's very different. He's more of a king in exile in this role than
plays it more straightforward.
Than bro dude comic relief. And
they play him. Yeah, he's not like a party dude.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so it all goes down a little smoother because we know what he's capable of because of Aquaman and everything else. Yep. But it's a more interesting introduction, and that's why we see 4 hours. It's because you're introducing 3 characters of the team for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. They're all getting like an origin story here. All right, so next up, we get a quick glimpse into the life of Martha Kent, played by the great Diane Lane, post-death of Superman. She's riding off in a U-Haul. There's a foreclosure sign on the Kent farm. Very sad. So apparently she didn't want anybody to know that she was getting foreclosed on. She's a proud woman.
She lost the farm.
Very sad. Bruce returns to Gotham, meets up with Alfred, played by the great Jeremy Irons.
Yes.
Not much here, just some gentle ribbing from Alfred. And who doesn't mind a little gentle ribbing from Jeremy Irons?
That's what he's there for.
Yeah, Brian, I know you love Jeremy Irons.
He's so good as Alfred. He's such a good Alfred.
I love Alfred and I love Jeremy Irons.
Yeah,
it's
doesn't get better than that.
You put those two together. What's not to love here? Come on.
So we check on next on Lois. She's obviously still feeling the loss of Superman pretty hard. We learn that she stops by Superman's memorial every day.
Lois is played by the great, the untouchable Amy Adams.
Oh, how did I? Yeah, I didn't mean to not say that.
How
Amy
do
Adams.
you know?
He loves you.
Sorry.
Anyway.
I have a bit of a thing.
Oh, do you for Amy Adams? We never heard it before.
Yeah.
Like you don't.
I do love her. So we learn that she stops by Superman's memorial every day, saying hello to Metropolis policeman Jimmy Olsen, played by Mark McClure from the original
I didn't know that.
Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
That's
Yeah,
so
the
cool.
Donner movies. Yeah.
So in a way,
Jimmy Olsen's in the movie.
It's retroactive because I know you don't like that they shoot
That's so delightful.
the new DCEU Jimmy Olsen in the head in BVS.
I wasn't a fan.
So
if
this
that
is
was
a
really
little.
what happened.
This is a little retroactive. It's like,
I guess
okay,
so.
well, this
Yeah.
one's still here. Oh, that's
I
cool.
always love a good Jimmy Olsen cameo.
What a
you know?
nice
I love
tidbit. That's cool.
Jimmy.
There you go. So then about 20 minutes in, we are treated to our first real action sequence of the movie, Wonder Woman versus the bank robbers. And this scene is insane.
Bruce
This was
Bolton
in the theatrical.
falling on hard times has to go rob a bank.
There's a lot of collateral damage here. Yeah. And I mean, Wonder Woman does her best, and she saves the day, and then she
so
basically
much.
slaps him, claps him into a wall. He claps. She claps him to death.
Well, she does her wrist thing so
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, I remember this being like one of the few moments in the 2017 one that
Oh,
I
it's
liked.
great.
This
It's absolutely great.
fight scene I think is extended in this version. You see more of it because I could watch like 4-hour movie that's just a giant Wonder Woman fight sequence. Honestly,
Well, and you know what I really like about the way Snyder portrays Wonder Woman is that she's ruthless, and she would be like, you know, she's like
a warrior.
the Amazonian warrior.
She's a warrior.
you know, and she does things in this movie where like, and we'll get to the very ending. She does one of my favorite things ever at the end, and we'll talk about it.
I love Wonder Woman.
I love Wonder Woman.
There's some discussion over whether blasting Bruce Bolton into a fine mist and a hat was over the top and necessary.
might have been
And it's
a
like,
little
well,
over
she
the
doesn't-
top.
well, she doesn't kill. And the thing is,
No.
she does.
No,
There's
Wonder
a
Woman
history of
kills.
this. There's one conversation that somebody brought up recently where she's talking to Batman and Superman. It's like, well, why do you think I don't have as large a roster of enemies as you guys have?
I love it. Love that line.
Because I kill them.
like Wonder Woman kills people. Like,
Yeah, and then she does that 1 minute, and there's Bruce Bolton's hat falling down there, into the cops, and then she has this wonderful line to a child. And I'm thinking, why would you cut that? That is one of the great Wonder Woman moments I have ever seen.
Yeah,
Why
but
would
it
you
also
cut
makes me
that?
laugh because she's like, "Can I grow up and be like you?" And
no,
she should have been like, "No."
Well, it's
Like,
well,
it's
I mean,
easy to
it's
reach for the
inspirational.
stars.
I get it.
you can be anything you want to be.
As the hole in the walls behind her.
Yeah.
That said, now if you want to be me, here's what you got to do. You got to go to an island, take 100 years, train with Robin Wright, do nothing else, and
Be a
then
half
maybe.
god. Be a demigod.
Let's just check off the list. Okay, are you or aren't you? Oh, you're not. Okay, well that's going to make
well.
things hard.
Just be honest with the kids, you know?
But she's a. I've always loved Wonder Woman interacting with young women and girls. It's one of my favorite things. Being the point of inspiration for the younger generations. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah, we kid, but that is a really, really fun scene.
Yes.
If that's not enough red hot Amazonian action for you to get you started, the next scene is equally as insane and entertaining. Back on Themyscira, Steppenwolf arrives via the mother box, and all hell breaks loose. So Hippolyta? How do you say her name?
Hippolyta.
Hippolyta.
Oh, that makes sense
Yeah.
now. Reading is fun. Hippolyta is on the scene, Queen of the Amazons, and Wonder Woman's mom, played by Connie Nielsen.
so cool.
There's this great scene of passing the football to get it away from Steppenwolf. They're taking the mother box, and they're kind of like passing it along.
Very
to get it away
extended from the
him.
2017 version.
Oh, yeah. And talk about like just this scene is
Action.
so much better.
Also, just the lack of peering up their skirts with the camera is fantastic.
And a large section of Themyscira winds up in the drink also. Like their island is.
No, it's destroyed.
Oh yeah, well I mean like
Portion of it's
so
destroyed.
basically Hippolyta runs out with the mother box, trapping all the other Amazonian warriors inside, hoping that they'll trap Steppenwolf in there too. They all die in an awesome hammer swinging scene, which I was just that's
cool.
Snyder all the way and very cool. And they all die, but Steppenwolf gets out eventually. Tracks Hippolyta down, gets the mother box, and escapes.
Yeah.
And that is the end of Part 1.
He's got a great moment in there too, and this movie all around is such a step up for Steppenwolf, who I don't know if I have yet to meet the person whose favorite DC villain is Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
I thought it was a book and a theater company. I had never known prior to this that it was a DC villain, because he's not as well known. But here he's working the whole trying to impress Darkseid story really works much better, as does the effect. It makes him, and I love
as the lackey.
Kieran Hines is an actor I love, and of course you're gonna hate me for this, but if you want more Kieran Hines, check out season 1 of HBO's Rome, where he plays
every time.
He plays Julius Caesar, and he is great. But he has a moment here where he's full of arrows in his armor, and he just kind of flexes a little bit, flexes the armor, and all of them pop off. I thought that was really
the new knife armor.
That's why he wears it, you know.
Yeah.
And dare I say he's much cuter. In this edition,
he's sleeker.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of like a lip quiver.
There's more humanity.
Yeah,
and his hangdog eyes, where he really just wants Dad to be happy.
He just wants Dad to be happy.
Not his dad, but he just wants to like love me. Please, he really just wants somebody.
I'll commit genocide for you.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, well, let's move on because we got a lot more movie to do. Part 2, The Age of Heroes. Clocking in at 30 minutes. Basically, the highlights here, we open on Steppenwolf, that cute, adorable little bug, setting up shop on Earth.
How is that
picked
a description of Steppenwolf?
Well, it's sticking now.
He is. He's adorable. He's adorable. Adorable little bug, Steppenwolf. Okay. He picked a Chernobyl-esque area for his base. It's like a toxic wasteland.
He says toxic. Great,
yeah,
perfect.
Great, toxic. Yeah, and then you just hear Hashtag Free Britney. Hashtag Free Britney.
Oh, that's now I wish it's an obvious needle drop. I can't resist it. Now I want that.
See, now somebody's got to make that.
Release the Romano cut.
There you go. Here, I'm going to do it right now. Here we go.
It's toxic. That's good.
There we did it.
Incredible.
There you go.
Okay.
Incredible.
So anyway, he conveniently lets us know that this area is devoid of people, which is always like,
there's not a random
there's
Russian
no
family.
here.
There's not a Russian family that the Flash is going to save later.
No people are here. No.
Yeah. Oh,
nobody. No one is saved in this movie. Not one person is saved. I mean, the universe really, but. So Bruce is back on the plane with Alfred, talking about the Flash, tracking down more super people, making things right. That's what Bruce says, because he's obviously feeling.
The grave.
Yeah, he swore in the grave. Yeah, he's obviously feeling very guilty over his actions of BVS, and for kind of helping get Superman killed. Yeah, playing a part. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk Batman. I know this is a topic we can discuss all day, but Bruce's role in the Snyderverse is very different than the previous incarnations we've seen in live action.
Yeah.
The most glaring departure being Bruce's age. He's the older Batman.
Yeah.
And also what we were talking about yesterday, this Bruce is all about the team. When in the past iterations of Batman, or some iterations of Batman has been more of a peripheral player on the Justice League.
He doesn't like friends.
Yeah, he's not. He's like the guy you call when you need something.
I think I said something along the lines of like this man has adopted like 10 children and he can't even admit that he has done that, let alone like bring more people into his life to be close to him most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Brian, what are your overall thoughts on this reincarnation of Batman?
Well, there's a lot of residual. Because I think of Batman in Justice League, and I can't help but think of the animated version, in which, like you said, he never really joins. He shows up when he feels like it, and they need him every episode, and he has a way to counteract the powers of everyone there. He's still the world's greatest detective. So they always need him, and they always need him for something. But he's not a joiner, like Caitlin said. Like, he's just not. He has his own cave. He has files on everything else. So here, not only is he... There's 20 years of him being Batman that we haven't seen. We can just imagine, because we can perfectly imagine 20 years of Batman. Yep. But he's the one bringing the team together. It's a departure and it's different, but it works because it's in service of making amends, like you were talking about. Yep. It's service because he says, I drove us apart in BVS. I drove especially him. I owe it to him. I failed at the end of BVS. He says, I failed him. And this is him making amends. This is him stepping up, not just for failing him, but for his life that he led up to this point where he has really not dealt with his issues well. We see that he lost a Robin along the way. He's drinking. He's womanizing. He's doing all kinds of stuff that usually Bruce Wayne doesn't do. And he just doesn't even live in Wayne Manor. It's going to pot. So this is what's his superpower in this movie. He's rich. He offers money.
Yeah.
So he's kind of,
Which he makes a joke about.
Yeah,
he's like,
I love
"What's
that
your
line."
superpower?" He's like, I'm rich. So he can
Rich.
fund everything. He can build this big plane. And when it comes to the actual fight, well, let's steal a laser and get a shooting. You know, and he grapples and he does a batarang and, you know, he goes around or whatever. But it's different and it's interesting. So it's, you know, and he is the detective. So he can find Arthur Curry and just walk his way into.
Well, and again, it's that beauty of this of DC. It's like there's all these different iterations of Batman. You can enjoy any flavor of them, and you could appreciate things about this Batman.
I generally
if it's not
like
your Batman. There's another Batman for you somewhere else.
There's things about each Batman that I really like. I love. That's why it's so hard to choose. The only one that I can see nothing wrong with ever is Kevin Conroy's Batman, and he has the animated edge.
He is.
So, but in terms of the others, I love what Affleck does as Batman. Yep. I love what Bale does as Batman. I love Batman. I love what Adam West does with Batman. There's a scene, as silly as it is, there's a scene where Bruce is handing the phone to himself as Batman in that show. That's actually astonishing. So there's each Batman brings something new to the table, just as each writer and artist brings something new to the comic. So
well said.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
So back at the Kryptonian ship, parademons are tracking the scent of mother boxes. We know that one is in Atlantis, so the other one is yet to be revealed. So we're back on Themyscira. Hippolyta fires off an arrow at this, some Greek architecture, an Amazonian temple, something, temple ruins.
Pretty.
There you go. It's very pretty. This acts as the warning to Diana. She's working at her museum. She sees the fire that this arrow creates on TV, and she's obviously shook by it. But she knows right away that this is a warning from the Amazonians. We cut back to the Kryptonian ship where we meet Silas Stone, Star Labs scientist specializing in xenoscience, which is alien technology. Yeah. We learn that he is the one that essentially stole that third mother box, which ends up in Cyborg's closet.
More tomfoolery from Cyberdyne.
I was just going to say, in all the roles of Joe Morton, all the crazy scientist roles, and I'm going to include his role on Sci-Fi's Eureka from how many years ago, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
But he was Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Fantastic in that.
He's amazing in everything he does.
Everything he
does. And not only, it goes without saying, I mean, I know we're going to get to this, how Ray Fisher was done the dirtiest of everyone by the original cut. And now it's restored. It's like, wow, that's what he can do. Right alongside him is Joe Morton. Who you don't do that to Ray Fisher, but you don't do the veteran like Joe Morton deigns to be in your movie, and you're going to do this to him. It's aside from Ray Fisher has been said is the heart of the movie. That's not a new take, but he's able to be that heart thanks to Joe Morton being as good as he is too.
Yeah,
it's the whole thing there, and you have an actor of Joe Morton's caliber, Cyberdyne, and you're going to do that to him.
We love it. We love a father-son dynamic.
Yeah,
absolutely. Love a good father-son dynamic.
Which is something Star Wars doesn't have a lot of. So
they don't. Well, and we see the son in this father-son dynamic, Cyborg. For the first time, we get our first really good look at Ray Fisher as Cyborg.
Yeah.
So anyway, Diana goes to the Arrow, goes into some cave temple underneath, which is like that Amazonian temple we just said, and basically learns all about the mother boxes in Darkseid from
through picture
reading the walls. It all makes sense. Especially because now when you hear the story later, you're like, oh, you got all that from a wall, huh?
Yeah, it's like, wow, she filled in a lot of gaps.
She knows her stuff, man.
She did. Aquaman saves a boat and then slow-mo walks into the water.
Yeah, man.
I think it's at this point we should mention that I believe I read somewhere that 10% of the movie is in slow motion. 10% of the 4 hours happens in slow motion.
You know what
I love it. I love it. I got no problem with it.
One change they do with him, instead of him like jumping in when the waves clash, he just vanishes. Later on when the waves come in and he appears, he doesn't swim in, he just appears in the waves.
He knows what he's
very
about.
Cool.
He's here for the drama.
He uses the water comes to him.
Yeah, and this was our first look theoretically of what the Atlantean kingdom was going to be
Well,
like.
and that's what we get next. So Aquaman goes to Atlantis, and we get a heaping dose of Aquaman prequel knowledge.
Now, question though, is it Atlantis or is it somewhere other than Atlantis? Because in Aquaman, they make a big deal that he's never been to Atlantis.
Well, I mean, I think it's like the suburbs of Atlantis.
Thank you,
Place
suburbs.
over.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
the main town.
Yeah,
but it's here.
not
It
the main
is,
town.
and you get. I'm sure you're about to say it, but we get. Another.
Yeah, we
actor
got William Dafoe.
How you gonna cut Dafoe with Peter, Harry?
William Dafoe, nudist
Willem.
Volko. Nudist Volko, I think the character name is.
But never me, Peter Parker. I've always been good for you. Come on, you're gonna
I'm
cut
a bit
him.
of a scientist myself.
It's like enjoy the fruitcake. Get what you need from her, then broom her fast. But he's great.
He's great. Yeah, William Dafoe is playing nudist Volko. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Aquaman's mentor.
And he's really
I
like
thought you were
Aquaman.
saying the nudist version of Volko.
No, his name is Nudist Volko.
And they really set up Aquaman too. They're like, look, King Orm is doing all this stuff. Here's your mom's pitchfork.
It's not
like,
my problem.
wow, they set up a lot.
That's what I was gonna say. Like he's pretty much Aquaman's mom, the Queen of Atlantis, is a right hand man who's played by
Nicole
Kidman from Batman Forever.
Atalanta.
Yeah,
That's right. She's from Batman. She was in Batman
Forever. So there you go. But anyway, so that all happens. Back to Steppenwolf. He's talking to Desaad, who is like
He's a new
Darkseid's
addition
right
here.
hand man. Yeah, another right hand man here. You know, you got nudist Volko, and then on the other side of the fence, you got Desaad.
You're saying nudist. It's
Desaad's coming through on like the volcano molten lava video chat
one does.
app. Yeah, it looks great. And we get a taste for Steppenwolf's backstory here. So something that was really lacking in the theatrical cut, like we said before, but it's very clear at this point that Steppenwolf's got some daddy issues, like we said with Darkseid. He's got to make up for something wrong that he did. So Wonder Woman makes a visit to Bruce, who breaks into the Batcave, all this fun stuff. Bruce is working on his prototype troop carrier.
Well, I don't think, is this the Batcave or is this just where he has this carrier? Because we go to the Batcave later and it doesn't look like this.
Isn't it all a Batcave,
It's all
Brian?
a
If it's
Batcave.
underground
It's in
and
our
he's building
hearts.
something.
The Bat hanger?
Do you think it matters?
This is why we need signs.
Do you think it matters?
We need the Adam West signs on everything because
Yes.
I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a Batcave.
It's the suburbs of the
Batcave.
Batcave.
It's another Batcave.
It's another Batcave, yeah. So the ship that he's working on won't fly.
Best minds away in aerospace couldn't make it fly. But you can. I have no choice.
And this is something they revisit a bunch of times through the movie. And I just have to ask, Caitlin, is this symbolism? Is the ship not flying because they make a point? Cyborg shows up later and he talks to it, and it's like the ship wants to fly.
Yeah.
Is the ship the team?
I think the ship is Batman.
Is the ship Batman?
I think the ship is Batman. I think the ship is Batman who has cut himself off from the world. He feels a lot of shame. He, as we know, has gotten one of his Robins killed at this point. He shut himself off from the world, and he doesn't know how to trust anyone. But this movie is going to bring him his new family, and they're going to trust each other.
Caitlin, you nailed it. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. The ship is Batman.
Yes.
The troop carrier is Batman.
Once we have established trust,
delicious.
the ship will fly.
There we go.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin, for that was really bothering me.
Hell yeah.
So anyway, next up, Wonder Woman now, we're reaching probably my favorite part of the Snyder Cut. She tells Bruce that full story of the time that Darkseid came to Earth that she learned at the temple, and we get this crazy Lord of the Rings
CGI
endgame level battle CGI. Do you like parademons? Well, here's 50,000 of them.
Do you like Green Lantern? Do you like the Green Lantern?
Yeah, you like the Green Lantern? Oh,
Now, which lantern was this? Do we ever find out?
We don't know.
don't know.
We don't know. It's what's cool though is because this was not them fighting Steppenwolf. This is them fighting Darkseid. And Darkseid losing, which doesn't
this
happen.
is the, she calls it the name of the chapter, the Age of Heroes.
Yeah.
She explains that at this period in Earth, you've got the Atlanteans, you've got the Amazonians, you have men, and you have these people from the stars, which they don't say it, but they're the Green Lanterns. They're Green Lanterns. Yeah. So on Earth at this time, you've got Zeus rocking lightning. You got Ares, with his big
who had front billing. David Thewlis. I was happy to see it. I was like, is there another scene
Even
with
if
him?
Zeus
But there
is
wasn't.
the biggest Sisters of the Ready mother. in all of Greek mythology.
Yes, he is.
no question.
Anyway.
Yes, he is. This sequence is great, and you could tell that. I would imagine that of that $70 million, there's a good 45 million.
Little bit of it went
nestled
to
up in
this
this
one.
thing.
Well, because
Yeah.
a lot of it is some of it is in the other version, but it's just not as big and grand as this.
And like I think this, like you go back to the extended Amazon piece, you come to this. A lot of the 4 hours are spent just expanding on these very big set pieces in these scenes that we've already seen and just adding more to them.
All right, so let's keep the train moving. Awesome scene. We're going to move on to part 3. Beloved mother, beloved son. The longest chapter, 40 minutes. So we'll try to do this in less than 40 minutes.
I believe in you, Matt.
We can do it.
Blow
We can
through
do
it.
it. Here we go. All right, here we go. Central City, The Flash. Anyway, 1 hour and 10 minutes into the Snyder Cut, we have finally arrived at Central City and the introduction of Ezra Miller's Flash. This is also one of my favorite moments in the movie. I'm going to say that 100 times. I say it all the time. Flash is trying to get a job with a dog groomer when a car crash involving a hot dog truck and classic Flash character Iris West happens right outside.
Iris.
And guys, you guys love this scene. This scene's great.
Made me smile. I love Barry and Iris.
Right?
So do I. I was happy to see Kiersey Clemens restored to the movie. I thought that there's been much ado paid to the slow motion Sesame Seed, but the whole thing about his speed, it's a different kind of than we've seen with Arrowverse Barry and with various Quicksilvers. It's different because this is more, he's entering the speed force. He's entering another
There's a
plane
power.
of existence in a way. And the way they do that is through a lot of slow motion. So I could
And
see where
lightning.
it won't, it wouldn't work for everybody, but it's very cool, I think.
And Barry Allen is just a wonderful character in and of himself. So
He really is. We love him. So happy to see him. The hot dog bit. Everything is great. We love this. Mind blown! Why not?
I'm going to do a retroactive mind blown for the Age of Heroes battle too.
Yeah, we missed that. Let's do that. Yeah, we got to remember that we have these things. Okay, so anyway, we pick up on Steppenwolf, and he's interrogating, violently killing Atlanteans. He uses a pretty awesome mind control device on some poor fish man and learns the location of the Atlantean mother box.
Yeah.
So hopefully he doesn't find it. We check in on Lois again. Still sad, very sad. She just is very sad.
Poor lady.
It doesn't have a lot to do here.
having
in
a
this
rough
movie,
time.
right? She's having a rough time. Bruce and Diana are working together to track down more superheroes now, particularly Barry and Vic Stone, the cyborg. And we finally get the cyborg backstory. And out of everything that was cut out of the theatrical cut, we said it before, but now that we've seen this footage, it's pretty mind-boggling they chose to cut it. We
Right.
see the car crash with Vic's mother, the aftermath with Silas, and his loving father, mad scientist, turned to save Vic with the mother box, thereby creating the cyborg as we know and love him today, and a really fun explanation of his powers, which I just really dug. You know,
Yeah.
it's like Cyborg, he's listening to his father on a recorded tape kind of explain his powers to him, and you're seeing him like, you have the ability to control the stock markets, and
The world's monetary systems and its complex interactions will seem as easy to manipulate for you as a
kind of
child's
goofy, but
play.
you're seeing the bull
But
and the
like
bear,
the
but it's
amount
like
of power
amazing.
this character
That was
has.
really cool how they dramatized
Really
that.
cool.
And it's
Really
there,
cool.
and it's him as he's yet to be cyborg. It's him in his football jacket. And I really
Exactly.
liked, I forget exactly what the line was, but that sums up the whole character. The problem for you is not, the burden is not going to be having the powers.
It will be not doing, not seeing. It is the burden of this responsibility that will define you and who you choose to be.
Which is fascinating.
And immediately puts him on like par as one of the strongest heroes on the team.
Absolutely.
I'd
Yeah.
put him up there with Superman as like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And always, even before this happened to him, I like that it shows the wonderful scenes with his mom, which are brief, but they are there and were not in the other version.
so much heart.
Yeah.
Where he was doing good before the accident happened. He had this wonderful relationship with his mother, and then this happens, and he has this amazing relationship with his complicated as hell relationship with his
Yeah.
father, and he has these powers, but he just thinks he's broken.
So, I mean, that leads to the question. Do you guys think Ray Fisher got a bad deal with the theatrical cut?
Ooh, I mean, yes, just in large part because there's so much more here. I will not be able to, and none of us will be able to speak to the allegations that he's made. I personally stand by him and support him because I think he is a wonderful person. But I also narratively speaking for the film, getting to see this backstory, and this is his first big gig, and the fact that now we are seeing all the backstory that was built into this character that was then cut is it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's also mind-boggling that Warner Brothers, with Cyborg the character, that a generation of kids grew up on with
That
Teen
they
Titans and Teen Titans
love
Go.
him.
They love him. You wouldn't use the opportunity to introduce Cyborg as well as they did in the Snyder Cut. It's kind of crazy.
As a major player.
Yeah, major player with a huge history and future ahead of him.
Yes.
Yeah, the excuse that they'll say is, well, we had to get it down to 2 hours, so something had to go. Which my questions are, well, did you? They had to get it down to 2 hours just because they wanted to film multiplexes, apologize for BBS. That was Warner Brothers or whatever. They just were stuck on the idea of 2 hours. That means we can have more people see it. That means, well, yeah, then things have to go. But you're choosing what has to go and what doesn't.
You chose the
and
Bruce and
this is-
Diana stuff.
You chose the weird, creepy, misogynistic Wonder Woman stuff.
You're inventing
right,
a lot of new stuff that doesn't need to be there. And this is a new character that we have never met before in the DCEU. So you have to establish him. And they barely did it at all. He barely registers. He does some computer stuff. He says booyah like he does, like the animated version does, which he doesn't in this version. And that's it. He barely registers. Did he get done dirty? Sensors at the ready. Abso-fucking-lutely. He got
Thank
done
you,
dirty.
I agree.
He
All
got
right.
done so motherfucking dirty.
Yeah.
And this is a revelation here, seeing him here. It's like, this is what it was. The cyborg stuff makes this entire thing worth it.
Absolutely. The Cyborg stuff, he's the heart and soul. People have said it. He's the heart and soul of this movie. And
He's
he
the
makes
human.
Snyder
He's
Cut.
the human thread throughout this entire thing.
Which you need a human thread in a movie like this.
Well, it's gods and Speed Force, this and whatever that.
Exactly.
This is the human element.
You need the human element.
Yes.
Absolutely. So anyway, parademons are closing in on Vic and the third mother box as we now cut back to Barry in Central City. He's visiting his father, Henry Allen, played by Billy Crudup, but recently announced Ron Livingston will be playing him in the future Flash movie.
Which is
so
interesting.
Unfortunately, we're going to lose Billy, which is a shame because he was great in this. And the scene at the end of the movie with him and Flash
That scene
is really
was
great.
fantastic. Yeah.
It's really, really great. But a little backstory here. His father was convicted for killing Barry's mother. And it's not really very clear in the movie, but it just kind of you got to rely on it, right?
If you're a fan of the Arrowverse, I imagine that most people watching this movie are fans of the Arrowverse. That's a big thing in
The subtitle should just say, "Go watch the pilot of the Flash," and you'll get it.
the Flash pilot on the CW.
Right. Or Flashpoint. If I don't know if you've ever read Flashpoint or watched Flashpoint.
That's a really good point. Is how much of this is some people are like, well, I don't understand. Tell me why.
Why is his father in jail?
Tell me why Clark loves Lois, and don't use because your knowledge of the comics or other shows. Why, in terms of these two movies, they love each other? It's like that's the thing. There's so much other movies and animated shows and comics and everything that informs this.
Context.
Who knows where it comes from? So in the context of this movie, what's the relationship? You don't know. And also he's changing stuff. So it's hard to tell what comes from where. It's different from Marvel stuff because a lot of times this is the first time this is being done live action, and it's stuff also I don't always know as well. So it's easier there for me a little bit. With this, I don't quite know. All I know is it's Clark and Lois. So yeah, they love each other because they're Clark and Lois, the end.
Exactly. And and it really, I mean, the whole movie is essentially a love letter to fans because it really, like, you got to be a fan of this stuff.
Yeah,
to really
and that's
enjoy
not
this
always
movie.
that's not always a good excuse.
You can enjoy this movie, but like it's not a good excuse. But in this example, the Snyder Cut, which was born out of
The Perfect Storm
fandom, Perfect Storm. There you go. Get a pass for that.
And even the thing is since it's streaming, even if you're not a fan, I know people who don't give a rat's ass about anything DC or anything comic book, and they're watching it too because people are talking about it.
So Barry and his father have a great heart-to-heart here. Henry wants to see Barry be the best he can be. He wants him to, get into law enforcement, so maybe you can break him out of jail. I don't know. But Barry's trying to get into law enforcement, and
he wants to be a CSI.
Wants to be a CSI guy, And now finally, Batman meets the Flash. So Bruce is sitting in the Flash's second favorite chair.
Barry Allen. Bruce Wayne.
You said that like it explains why there's a total stranger in my place, sitting in the dark, in my second favorite chair.
I still really like this scene. This is a
Me
lot
too.
from the original.
Me too.
Yeah.
This is pretty much the same scene we saw in the theatrical cut. The one thing missing here is that horrible brunch line that
Bad.
Flash goes into about brunch.
Bad.
So it's like, hey, what do the kids like? What do the kids think is funny? Hey, Barry, you like avocado toast, Barry?
It was like,
get out
oh,
of
that's
here.
gold. Put that in the movie right now. All right,
And you know that Ezra,
Done.
oh, that's really good.
Ezra Miller's
Yeah,
sitting there
whatever.
going, "Oh God."
Yeah. So we got this line. We got this line about brunch. So just say that, and the kids is gonna love it. 2 hours is gonna be good. Just do it.
Yeah. So anyway, he rides off with Bruce, and we get that awesome line that we said before.
What are your superpowers again? I'm rich.
I'm rich.
I'm rich.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
great.
So Wonder Woman and Alfred
That's
are,
just something that Affleck just said.
It's just funny.
as he dropped his Dunkin' Donuts.
He was not in character.
I'm rich in a Dunkin' Donuts.
Best part of my day is at Dunkin'.
So anyway, moving on. Wonder Woman and Alfred are having a fun chat in the cave.
Yeah, about
whatever it
tea.
is.
They're
About tea.
about
They
making
love
tea.
tea.
Alfred's
Hey.
tea-splaining the goddess
the
Diana.
5,000-year-old Amazonian who's definitely been drinking tea a
It's
long
like, now
time.
you mustn't scold. And I left this. I'm like, wait a minute. Have I been doing it wrong?
It's the most
Have I been making
English
tea?
thing.
Yeah. It's like, you mustn't scold the tea.
So anyway, but this is another thing that's not too different from the theatrical cut. This is when Cyborg contacts Wonder Woman. She meets up with him. She basically convinces him to join the team.
Except there's one very specific. I know there's one shot that was not here of her walking
Yes.
down the street because of all those big
Because
theater moments.
because
in the-
60% of the movie is taken up by her butt in that
Yes.
screenshot.
And I
Yeah.
remember because a movie like this, you get a lot of audience reaction, especially if you're watching it in the five boroughs. And the only moment when I saw this one, I think it was opening night or at least the next day, which you're going to get packed theater and reaction for weeks. The only thing in this whole movie that got any cheer or anything was that shot of her walking, which is gone now, of her walking down the street.
60 to
It's just
75% of the screen
Wow.
is taken up by her butt.
One guy just shouted out, "Oh, that ass!" and the whole theater laughed. The whole theater laughed,
wanna
and
I'm
then
sorry
cheered.
that I'm laughing. It's just I've been in
That
those
was the
I
only
wanna
moment that got
die.
a reaction in the entire live experience, and I was stabbed. Like that was the only thing. It was only because that guy said that.
Well, I'm glad they cut it out, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gone.
so-
It's gone, thank
not
God.
here. It's not
Great,
here.
thank God.
It's gone.
So,
It's gone. Yeah,
another
this is
thing
what,
they
this is what we do.
another thing they added here, or maybe they didn't. I don't know. Vic buries the mother box in a cemetery, maybe at his mother's grave. I don't remember. But
His
he
own
buries
grave.
the mother box. His own grave. Oh yeah, right. That's right because he's dead.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so there you go. Thanks, Brian, for that excellent commentary.
Hey, no problem.
Silas is off at the Kryptonian ship, still tinkering away, becoming more aware of the danger the mother box is posing. He rushes home to check on Vic, and the apartment is trashed.
Yeah.
And then, oh hey, Commissioner Gordon, played by J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons. He's got to talk to Batman. So we're back at Gotham. Bring me pictures of Batman.
There's a little more of him in this, and he's
There
really
is.
good in this part.
He's great in this.
It's
He's
like,
great. I joke, but he's great.
How are you going to call him? It's like, how do you think?
Yeah, how do you think? I'm going to use the big light on top
Use
of the
the
building.
light
Yeah.
that we have specially made.
Yeah.
So anyway, the team is coming together. We got Bats, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Cyborg. Is more or less in at this point, but he's not really there yet. He's going to show up soon. Steppenwolf has tracked down the Atlantean mother box and goes all fisticuffs. Put up your dukes with Mara, played by Amber Heard, and eventually Aquaman. But Steppenwolf gets away, and that's 2 mother boxes down for Team Darkseid.
1 to go.
And now 1 to go.
Like
1 to go.
every time he says, I got another one, I have 2. And the first thing he says, what about the third?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
yeah.
first time
No.
it's like, I got 1. It's like, what about the other 2?
We've all worked for that boss.
Yeah,
We've all worked
exactly.
for that boss.
It's true.
And
Yeah. What about the synergy?
Well.
the third one, synergy.
Well,
I was wondering when you would mention that.
All right. So anyway, he's got the 2 boxes, and that makes him. It gives him the ability to throw a big old red dome around his nuclear wasteland
yes.
hideaway. So now he's got
It's
a shield.
not really
Or
a
still-
villain hideout unless you have a glowing red dome around it.
Exactly.
I've always said this.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to part 4, the Change Machine. Oh, not the Change Machine. It's just Change Machine.
Ooh, yes.
It's 30 minutes long. We're back to Gotham again with Commissioner Gordon.
I don't even blame you at this point. I don't even blame you.
one
The
and the same, my
commission's
friend.
waiting for Bats.
The
on
commission,
roof.
the commission. You could be talking about Michael Chiklis, who also
Who
played the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was-
and
who was
Miles
al-
Teller, who was also in Fantastic
who
Four.
was in
Everybody gets a ride.
Fan
Everybody
Four
gets a
Stick
Commissioner
with
Gordon.
Kate Mara. who was also in
Commissioner
Iron
Gordon.
Man 2.
So anyway, the commish is waiting for bats on the roof with the signal.
Gordo.
Batman shows up with Flash, Wonder Woman, Cyborg. Cyborg shows up with all the goods. Yeah, it's great. Still a great scene.
And they do. I like that they all do the classic Batman vanish, even though he's never done
and
that.
the fastest
Yeah.
little of them all.
Oh wow, they really just vanish. Huh? Oh, that's rude.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, oh, they just really go. And
That's
because
just
we've never
rude.
seen Affleck pull that leave yet.
Yeah, never. And that's such an animated series
But
thing,
we
too.
know that Batman does it. Bale always did it.
Yeah, but I feel like that joke really resonates because of the animated series, because he left Commissioner Gordon in the
That's a
animated
joke that
series
resonates because
every
of
time.
what we know about Batman and other
Exactly, like we were saying
experiences.
before.
If all you watch are Man of Steel, BVS, and this, that's like, what's the joke?
It's funny because it's funny. Like, that's just really funny.
So anyway, this all leads up to one of the biggest action sequences of the film with lots of added goodies versus the theatrical cut. The big sewer fight scene, the first time the Justice League comes to face with Steppenwolf, who's just in the sewer, again, like I said, interrogating and torturing Star Lab
I
scientists.
thought you were going to say he's just in the sewer being sad.
That too.
He's being an adorable, beautiful, like
Little
just
bug.
cute little bug that he is.
I don't like my name.
But I want to take a quick moment. This would be a good time to reflect on the music of the Snyder cut, because the sewer fight goes full Snyder. You get the rockin' guitars. You get the Wonder Woman. Oh, whatever that is.
You get the full Junkie XL experience.
Not only does he use the Wonder Woman theme, which he himself created for the first time liberally, but the chanting, the Themyscira chant, which anytime she does anything,
Very Gladiator.
I didn't notice it until I started seeing the memes. And then I was like, oh, I guess it is a thing, but it
everywhere.
didn't take me out.
Oh, it's
I was
everywhere,
into
yeah.
it. I like his new Batman theme. It's an actual huge score, which he rewrote in quarantine.
Yeah.
He took what he was going to do, he threw it out, he reused his whole thing. And I think we were talking about the best part of all, he liberally uses Hans Zimmer's theme for Superman.
Yes.
Which we all
Yes.
adore.
Yes.
Talk about it's like how that has now gives you the same feelings that the iconic John Williams theme used to, which would be out of place here. But it's not quite at that level because it's John Williams and nothing is, but it's right below it.
But I'm a fan of the music. I think it's we were joking about it in last week's episode, but I think I don't know. I think it works for me in a lot of places.
He's an amazing composer.
Amazing
Right.
composer.
And this film's music is extra in the way that the movie itself is extra, and in the way that Zack Snyder as a director is extra.
Yeah, it's exactly what I want. I want it. If it's like from that title card, this is extra
It's like-
AF. So
it's
of
like
course-
Dewey Cox. Dewey Cox, like, give me more didgeridoos.
I'm hearing more Aboriginal percussionists, and I want an army of didgeridoos. 50,000 didgeridoos.
It's you know what it is? It's that episode of
More
Frasier
cowbell.
where he just has to write the
Yes,
jingle.
the Frasier episode too.
And it's
Oh,
like,
that's great
and he's
one.
all I wanted was a jingle, and it turns into this.
Frasier the Pod. That's a great episode.
100-person orchestra. It's like, why not? You're already doing a 4-hour movie that you threw another 70 million at. Yeah,
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it. Give me the most over-the-top score you can think of. They chant 20 times. Make them chant 50 times. That's what I want from this.
All right, moving on.
No,
Anyway,
we're gonna stay where we are.
Lots of fun in the sewer fight. You got Batman's crazy wall crawler thing.
Yeah.
Flash pushing Wonder Woman's sword to her in slow
famous
mo.
Batman device.
Relax, Alfred. I'll take it from here.
Do I know you?
Wall crawler, of course. And then Aquaman just saves the day, and
Yeah.
he's like officially joined the team. So he
Stops
shows
the
up
harbor.
and just saves the day.
He officially joins the team.
Yeah. He's officially like, all right, I'm here. I got it. It only took me getting my ass kicked in Atlantis, but I'm here. And then a big moment, the mother boxes call out the Steppenwolf, and Steppenwolf finally becomes aware that this is not some ordinary planet, but the one that kicked Darkseid's ass in the Age of Heroes. Because he's not aware of this yet. And Earth is also home to the anti-life equation, which,
man.
like the Infinity Gauntlet in Marvel, kind of gives anyone who wields it control of people and the universe.
The way that they try to describe the anti-life equation in this from the comics, they just drop it in there.
It's like here's the Wikipedia page.
It's like another thing. It's like here's another thing that's easily the focus of its own movie.
Have you had enough yet?
Here's the anti-life equation, by the way.
Like, those other movies, they just have one ring to rule them all, where we're gonna have 10.
It's great.
It's like,
anyway.
Oh, man, I was at that point. I was like, why not? Why not? Let's do it.
No, I was like, bring it.
I was like, what's next? Injustice? And I was like, obviously, yes. Okay, we're doing that too.
Flashpoint? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, don't worry.
Batmite is here to make Batman's life hell.
Yeah, it's like Batmite, Crypto, Mixopidalic. Let's throw them all in.
So anyway.
Seriously, why the fuck not?
So... Hey everybody, it's Darkseid. So he comes through on the lava phone.
That's an actual line. That was an actual quote from the movie. That's Desaad. Darkseid turns over, is like, we got to replace him. Yeah. Is that seriously how I'm being announced?
So he's on the lava phone, and he basically tells Steppenwolf, you better take over this world, or like, it's over for us. Like, you and me, we're done. If you don't take this world over for me, it's over.
And Darkseid's like, what us? It's like, when did we become an us? Answer is never. Okay.
Steppenwolf is just looking at it with his adorable, beautiful, this buggy eyes.
There is no us. There's only you,
adorable.
Captain Bone Crown.
So anyway, next up, a lovely scene between Martha Kent and Lois Lane, who have spent the whole movie being sad, as we've talked a lot about, and rightfully so. This is a great scene until it's kind of weird.
Until it's like, I wouldn't say ruined is the wrong word. It's a very intimate scene between these two women who are absolutely wonderful. And then Matt, I don't want to step on your toes, but then they have this wonderful scene between the two of them where they're talking about the loss that they've shared. They've lost Clark. They've lost this man whom they both love very much and understand more than anyone else as both the mother and the fiance. And then we learn that it was actually the entire time, instead of it being Martha Kent who was visiting Lois, it was actually Jean Jones, aka Martian Manhunter, using his shape-shifting skills to pretend to be Martha Kent.
Right. So, and he wanted to, like, bring Lois back into the game somehow?
I mean, I guess the idea is that, like, Jean Jones being a very wise character, I understood it as him, like, knowing that she was going to be needed to step up, maybe to be the person to bring Clark back into himself, which I could have a long commentary about that, but we're not going to get into that right now. But it's interesting to me. It would have, I think it would have resonated more with me if it had been Jean. If we want to use Jean desperately in this movie, have him go to Martha and say, I know this about your son. I would appreciate it if you would go to, either you could be the one to bring him back, or you could also go to his fiance. Like there's a disconnect.
Yeah, like imagine if General Swanwick like just showed up to talk to Martha Kent, and then to get Martha Kent to come around was like, I'm Martian Manhunter, I know superheroes.
Right.
Like, you know, I could have done it a little differently. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, it's an incredible scene with the two of them.
It is.
It's and which is it was so much better than it was completely replaced with something completely else for 2017. Mm-hmm. This is a beautiful moment with the two of them, just about grief and everything else. And I like that the whole theme of it is, well, the world needs Lois Lane too. She's not working. She's not back at the planet. And I don't think, for me, it doesn't have anything, whether Superman's alive or dead or anything. Lois Lane is important, and she's an important character, and she's an important force in the world. She's the greatest journalist there is. Whether Superman's alive or dead, Lois Lane is important, and the world needs Lois Lane. Yep. So it's trying to, I think, whether that's Martha saying it or John Jones or anybody, this world is better with her at back to work. It's like it's time.
Yeah.
But then it has that reveal which I didn't see coming. So he's not only is he Martian Manhunter, but he's Harry Lennox as Swanwick, who we've seen in 2 movies now. So my question was, now has he, from Man of Steel on, has Swanwick always been Martian Manhunter? He has to be, because what would he have done? He was taking the real Swanwick's place. What then did he do with OG Swanwick?
I honestly, this was the one part of this movie that like had me exclaiming. Like I screamed. Like I there was a Caitlin scream moment where I was just like, yes, John
wow, there you go.
Jones!
A mind blown?
Yes.
Would you say a mind blown?
Because I love Martian Manhunter. I think he's one of the most fascinating characters in DC canon.
Yeah, he's great. He's absolutely great.
And
I absolutely love Harry Lennox as an actor, and I like, and he's it's a fine part, Swanwick, but he's like another government guy. And now looking at it, he's kind of fascinating now. And so the idea of him as the human form of Martian Manhunter. Oh Lord.
Well, and watching Man of Steel now and knowing that he's Martian Manhunter and like he's just protecting Earth.
Right?
And like he's like, and all his animosity towards Clark makes sense now because he's like, listen, I'm a Martian. I know like what's going on here. Like,
I know what you are.
I know what you
are.
are.
Pretending to not be something that you are.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
In my head canon, Swanwick is always John Jones the whole time.
Me too.
But the thing I wonder is when Snyder decided to do that.
And we'll never know.
Probably after the $70 million check.
It's scams. He wanted and Caitlin and I were.
I could pay for it. Okay.
Caitlin and I were talking about it. He wanted John Stewart Green Lantern, and WB said no.
Yeah.
They said no because they have their own plans.
Well, why? It's like you can have your plans. I can have my plans. Why can't you have a multiverse? Why can't?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's a shame that maybe they couldn't do that. Yeah. All right. Well,
moving on.
Anyway, moving on. Next up, Part 5, All the King's Horses. Clocking in at 30 minutes. Batman invites his new super friends over for playtime in the Bat adjacent cave, and we get more talk about the jet. This is where Cyborg says,
It wants to fly.
and now we know, thanks to Caitlin, Bruce wants to fly. So now all makes sense
I mean,
to me
we
now.
all do, don't
We love a metaphor.
Yeah, we all do.
You know who else flies in DCEU? Superman. Is that a parallel?
A lot of people fly.
Yeah, he finally makes his amends to Superman. Then he can fly. Is that part of it?
Sure.
You brought it up,
maybe,
and now I'm thinking maybe
we'll-
there's something to your cockamamie thing. I don't know.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Anyway.
I'm so happy I'm here.
The team pretty much gets to know each other in this scene, and we get lots of more exposition on the history of the mother boxes. Vic tells the story about his father and how he pretty much is a mother box, and Aquaman's like, maybe you're the bad guy. All that stuff goes down. But basically what Vic explains to the team is that the mother box is a change machine, just like the title of this part. And the mother box can basically recreate matter. So the team now with this new knowledge figures out, oh man, like let's just throw Mother Box as Superman and we can bring Superman back.
I like how
You guys remember Superman? We're 2 hours into the movie.
And now there's Superman!
What was that whole thing about turning smoke back into... It's actually...
Yes,
it's
a house burns
cool,
down and turns to smoke, but the smoke is still the house.
Yeah.
You know, what if you could take the smoke
Matt,
and
it's like there's an
rebuild
axe a year after
we're
using
not-
it, you
we're not
replace the
doing-
handle.
we're
There's a
not-
ship,
we're
and you
not-
take the wood.
And then is it still the same axe?
We're not doing the vision thing.
It's still the same Mother Box.
Yes.
Caitlin,
No,
question for you,
Matt
though.
is the host here, Brian. Shut up.
Yeah, thank you,
What if we
Caitlin.
did, though?
Brian, shut up. Matt
questions
is
from
the
Brian.
host.
Ew. Okay, fair enough. Warranted, but still hurts.
So anyway, so now they all decide, like, we're going to go save Superman. We're going to save Superman with the Mother Box. Caitlin Bush, is this a good plan?
No.
Oh, it's not.
I never, like, very simply, no. More nuanced. Like, yeah, sure. I love, like, rebirth of Superman. Superman as a Jesus figure within comics is absolutely fascinating to me. I love it. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one character that I see in most modern narratives as being, like, not rolling my eyes as like a Jesus figure kind of thing because it makes sense.
Well, it's funny you say that because what bothers me about this, because like I said in the beginning of the show, like I fell in love with Superman over the Death of Superman story arc, and they bring him back to life in a very different way in the comic books. And without getting too much into it, but like he comes back to life amid 4 other imposter Supermen, one of which is really a Kryptonian like killer robot that is dispatched to protect like Earth while Superman regenerates.
It's so complicated.
It's a very complicated storyline, but it doesn't get into that like he's a rebirth like religious figure.
Right.
You know,
Meanwhile,
sort of thing.
this is like movies have always made Superman way more of a Jesus narrative for this stuff.
Exactly.
Which has its own power, but I like it more in this version than the 2017 version. But I'm just like, y'all really are just at your last. Like, this is your last stand here, isn't it? Like, this is, y'all are
pulling out all the
dropping a
stops.
mother box into a Kryptonian birthing chamber.
Right.
And hoping that you can bring a man back from the dead.
Exactly.
That's what you're doing. And you're using the speed force on top of that to do it.
So yeah, so the plan works though.
Yeah.
So they drop the mother box into the Kryptonian goo, which they have now placed Superman in. Flash runs real fast, and you see that speed force at work because he's late, but then he runs faster and he kind of reverses time a
That's
little
where he
bit.
says he has a rule that he doesn't break. It's like
Yeah,
these
but he
weird
breaks
things
the rule.
happen.
I love this sequence that happens next. So this is one of those things I was pleasantly surprised that was mostly Snyder.
Yeah.
But it's the scene where Superman is now back to life. He's a little confused and he's got to face off against the Justice League. And I just love these moments. Pin all the superheroes against each other, because that's the only time when you're watching these movies, like, you know, the power set of like a Thanos or a villain or whatever, but you really understand and have so many different ideas in your head about how like superheroes can use their powers,
Right.
you know? And it's just, I don't know, it's so much more interesting to see like the main superheroes fight each other, because like you can really like stack them up in a way.
Well, it gets into the
You really
fandom,
can't
like,
stack them against
who
the
would win,
villains.
Batman or Superman? Who would win, Superman or Wonder Woman? Like, it's that.
I like it here where it's in this. It's all in DC characters, because when you cross, it's
Yes.
like, well, could this beat someone else from a completely
Right,
different
right,
universe?
right.
That's where it's like, it's completely different worlds. That's always silly to me. But here, I like it, and it's like, well, that's also before the big battle. Let's get a look at everyone's skill sets and see what everyone's aware of, so we know what they can, mostly what they can do by the time they face down the big bad.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so now like the Justice League, they're pairing off against each other. I love that the moment with the Flash running real fast and Superman catching his eye was a Snyder thing.
Yeah.
I loved that. That was like, that's so funny. I think that like, it actually, real quick, the funny moments in here are all deserved. Like, there's not a lot of funny moments in Snyder Cut, but I laughed at every single moment that I think was intended to be funny.
Yes. It's because it's not a quippy, like, Tony Stark funny.
Right.
It's like, it's a very purposeful, like, oh, isn't that ironic? Like, Lord.
Yeah. Well, even like, and at the end of the scene, like Flash and Aquaman are kind of like beaten up on, like, you know, like basically thrown into to the steps,
And they're just
they
like,
have that moment together. Yeah, like,
I'm so sorry.
super fun scene. Everybody beats up on each other. Clark sees Batman. He's about to tear Batman apart, and then who shows up on the scene? Lois Lane is there. Also in the scene, we should acknowledge, we finally see that footage that we've always saw in the trailer for the theatrical version of Cyborg jumping in front of that car.
You should probably move.
But so anyway, Clark sees Lois. He takes off. We don't really ever, this what kind of bothers me, we don't ever hear the team really ask like where he went, you know, like they kind of bring him back to life.
Right.
And
Doesn't he takes her with him.
yeah. They fly away.
They fly away together. And that's a fair, like, they're like, they never are like, okay, well, I guess he's gone now.
Yeah, exactly. And then later they don't like, nobody says like, hey, should we call Lois? Like, just see how what Clark's doing.
Right.
Like they kind of allow him to come back on his own speed. And
fair.
the world is in some danger.
They're probably tired of
like-
getting their butts beaten by Superman.
It's like, should
exactly,
we call him?
yeah.
It's like, how about we not? Because my hand really hurts.
He'll call us.
You know,
Yes.
let's just let him do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And let's just have faith, Alfred, faith that he'll show up.
Yes, exactly. And one thing, you know, this movie is so heavy in this. One thing we should also acknowledge is that right before Cyborg saves or activates to bring Superman back to life, the Kryptonian ship sends him a vision of the future,
Right.
which is that nightmare verse. So like before he's like, no, don't do it. Cause he sees like everything going to hell. So we're going to get into this later, but like, you know, more strings of that nightmare verse of bringing Superman back to life and him being ultimately what destroys the planet. But we'll get to that, you know, because there's a lot to do here. Back in the Kryptonian ship, Silas retrieves the mother box and tries to destroy it. In a selfless act of bravery, Silas kills himself trying to destroy the box, but it's a bigger plan than that. In doing what he did, he has marked the box, so now the team can find them. So basically, he tries to overheat the box, and by killing himself, he sends a message to the Justice League that like the boxes have heat signatures, and if you look for this heat signature, you can find it. So so basically, through his death, he gives the Justice League the keys, you know, to end this. And Cyborg has an awesome scene to end Chapter 5 or Part 5, where he says,
Let's go find this son of a bitch.
Cyborg.
Classic stuff. Cyborg. Part 6, Something Darker. 45-minute length. But my notes are not as heavy as the other parts because there's just a lot of action in these scenes. So we open back up on the Kent farm. Lois and Clark are there. Are they trespassing? Because I'm pretty sure that was foreclosed on.
Right, it's owned by the bank now.
Clark's clothes are still there.
There's the scene of
Clark's clothes.
Superman snapping the necks of about 10 bankers. They just cut that.
Yeah, that didn't make it. That's in the gray version. Yeah. Anyway, Lois brings Clark back from the dead, essentially, like with her love. So he's Clark again. Like she takes him to the corn, everything's great. Clark goes off to Alfred and is like, well, first he goes to the Fortress of Solitude, Kryptonian ship. I don't know where he went.
Gets his black suit.
That's the thing. In the DCU, there is no Fortress of Solitude. I kept waiting for the Kryptonian ship to stop being a science lab and him to fly off and put it in the ice and say it's the Fortress of Solitude now.
I thought it was genius in Man of Steel that the Fortress of Solitude was the Kryptonian
That's what I thought.
ship.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's
so
what I was hoping in this they do that. It's the one thing with him that I'm missing. I do love the Fortress of Solitude.
But see now, and real quick on the black suit too, going back to the Death of Superman storyline. One thing I love about the original black suit is that like it was like a regeneration suit.
It's
like,
meant to help him
it's
be
meant to heal,
strengthened.
Because it absorbs more sun. More
but
yellow sun.
It's a battle suit. Yeah.
Well, that's just what I picked up from it. I really like that they did that. I think it's
and Matt, that goes back to your point of there's a lot of parts in this that you're going to pick up on. It's not as explained as much. If you are a comics fan, if you know the lore, you're going to enjoy this more. It's not explained that, oh, the black suit helps him absorb stuff and heal more quickly. It's just like, oh, he's wearing a black suit. Oh, cool.
That's totally lost on you. If you don't know any of that, then it's just like, oh,
he's emo now.
I like the black suit. He's emo. I've been dead, so I gotta wear black.
Now he listens to the Black Parade. Like, that's fine. Like,
yeah, great song.
Yeah, in which case if it's like, oh, well, it's because of this, or if he's just emo, it's like, it probably works either way.
Cool.
Does it come in black?
So anyway, the Justice League are now going off to have the final confrontation with Steppenwolf. The ship works. They're on the ship and they're all excited. Alfred's like, "Come see something, everybody! Come outside. The ship works.
The super friends are here.
They're super friends." Bruce turns to the cyborg, is like, I believe in you too, or something. Says something nice. I don't know. Bruce says
a direct line from the movie.
Yeah, direct
line from the movie. Hey, it's a long movie.
It says, I believe in you too. I didn't say anything. I know.
You can fly too, cyborg, something like that. So anyway, but they're very excited. They get on the jet and they fly to the
Chernobyl-esque.
Chernobyl-esque nuclear wasteland that is the paradise of beautiful, gorgeous, beautiful baby.
Apocalypse.
Delicious bug.
Toxic
our delicious bug boy.
So the team goes into battle. Lots more fun here. Just overall better than the theatrical, I think. We lost that Whedon red sky. It's kind of, the color's all better. The action's better. Superman shows up, eventually saves the day.
Yep.
Not necessarily saves the day,
in a very different way. And also
very different
the
way.
line where he's like,
not impressed.
I love that.
He whips his butt in like right quick, doesn't he?
Well, he does. And what was really great about the Snyder version is that in the theatrical cut, it's really Superman shows up and then nobody else has anything to do.
Right.
Like they send Superman off to save civilians just for the pure sake of getting him off the table.
Yeah.
So like then Wonder Woman and Batman have a reason to do. He's much more interesting and useful the way he's used here because he's not like he's not the end all.
He's not the savior.
Yeah, he's not the savior. He's really just like the supporting player that they needed.
Yeah. And then it becomes Cyborg still being the savior.
Yeah,
and
still
then
Cyborg, right, exactly.
Superman.
And Flash.
Exactly. And then them saying, Superman, come help me now. Like them being in charge.
But you have these two characters between like Cyborg and Flash that are growing into they're trying to be heroes. They're both getting messages from both of their fathers to be better than themselves. And it's those two guys that really end up being the ones that save the day. Yeah. With supporting help from Batman, just laser shooting everything from
and
far
Wonder
away.
Woman like hitting everyone with her shield constantly.
Well, it's I love that they got rid of Steppenwolf, but that's not the big problem. The thing is they have to disrupt the unity, and that needs Cyborg. Right. But he's too late.
Cyborg with like the mildest help from Superman, unlike the theatrical cut.
And you have you not only then have the Flash turning time back, which is an insanely cool sequence. Yes. But then you have for me that takes it is the ultimate, okay, Cyborg has a chance to do it. And, the temptation, it's like you can have your family back, you can have your life back, all those lies or whatever. And the line of the movie, which I've been turning over ever since, is "I'm not broken and I'm not alone," and that's his journey. And no more unity. He ends up being the savior, and that's the whole journey. And I'm like, well, there's an arc for you for both.
That's it.
I
mean, this movie has an arc.
Whereas in the other version,
everybody,
it's like, well, okay, instead of that great him turning back time and breaking his rule about time or whatever, how about we have him push a truck full of Russians? It's the same thing. It's just as good, right?
Barry hates brunch.
No,
he hates brunch.
We got this. No, it's gold. You know, he has this. And why don't we put Steve Urkel in the truck? So he's saving him. I mean, this is. Anyway. But then there's this, and this is between the two of them. That's the brilliance of the end of this. Yeah.
No, it really is. So anyway, all of this happens. It's amazing. Superman just cuts off Steppenwolf's ear
bones
or whatever
him.
it is.
Bone, crown, ear. Yeah.
They kick his ass. Yeah. They literally, the portal opens up and Darkseid's about to come through and talk to them. They're all looking at him. They're like, don't you come here.
That's after Diana chops Steppenwolf's head fully off.
This moment is awesome.
Yes.
You want to about a moment in a theater that probably would have been awesome. Diana chopping off Steppenwolf's head and sending it back to Darkseid would have got a pretty big
chef's kiss. Mwah.
Yeah, exactly. Mwah. Beautiful.
Here's your son.
Yeah. So basically they're like, don't ever come here, Darkseid. We're here now. Don't mess with us. Darkseid does the we'll do it the old way, you know.
His retort is, well, I'm going to come to you.
I'm going to come here.
Anti-life equation. I'm coming.
I think he literally says, may we all meet in Spaceballs 2, the search for more money.
He turns to the screen and goes, I don't know if I'll be back, Warner Brothers. Will I?
Yeah. Maybe you guys should watch the gray version. So I don't know. So anyway, you get the big superhero pose at the end. Everybody's great. Then you kind of you very quickly go through everybody's, where they are now in the aftermath of everything. But everybody's in good shape. I guess without Cyborg's a little sad as his dad's gone. He's listening to another recording of his dad, and his dad's kind of narrating the ending. Beautiful, just
the ending narration from Joe Morton is incredible and really gives this a feeling that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, no, totally. You get this great moment where we're back at Star Labs with the Kryptonian ship. And this character who's been in the movie the whole time but hasn't been revealed to what his name is, it ends up being Ryan Choi, who is the Atom.
Hell yeah.
Is a version of the Atom. So it's another deep cut DC thing right there. Ryan Choi, that character created by Gail Simone, which is very interesting. Then Bruce and Diana, they want to build the Hall of Justice. Superman is still wearing the black suit. Barry gets a job in a crime lab, like we said before. Very, very excited for him. Bruce buys back the Kent farm. Batman has a tank. There's just a shot of Batman on a gigantic tank.
The Dark Knight Returns tank.
Right.
Yeah.
So what... Okay.
In that comic, he has a big tank.
But he has a tank now.
Why?
Because he can.
Well, it wanted the drive.
Yeah.
It wanted the drive.
There's your answer. You're literally speaking for me. You just answered your own question.
So there you go. So thank you. So anyway, that is the prologue and the 6 parts. So now we are finally at the finish line.
And then, not so fast.
The epilogue, titled A Father Twice Over, 20 minutes in length. And this is crazy. So now we jump to the Nightmareverse, which we've talked a little bit about here and there throughout the podcast today. But the Nightmareverse, again, going back to BVS, there's this whole sequence where Bruce is visited by the Flash, apparently from the future, using the Speed Force, comes to Bruce in the Batcave and warns him and says Lois Lane is the key. So in this movie, you're led to believe that the Lois Lane is the key because she's the one that kind of brings Superman back from his whatever weird death thing that he was going through, helps save the day, everything's great. But what the nightmare alludes to is that Flash's warning is really something more darker and sinister that leads to a more terrible future.
An alternate universe kind of.
Well, it's something that it's a spin on the Injustice story, whereas Joker tricks Superman into destroying Metropolis and Lois dies in the process. But here we're led to think it was because of Darkseid and Parademons and that. Lois dies. There's a shot of burnt up Lois being cradled by Clark, which is a reuse almost of a shot because he didn't have Cavill for reshoot. So that was if you look, it's a side by side reuse of something from Man of Steel.
And it's an Elseworlds storyline kind of thing.
And it's you have it's evil Superman in this world of parademons and everything else, and you have Batman in his trench coat look with who's left? And you see Diana on the pyre, she's dead. Aquaman's dead. So it's who's the roster, man?
Well, the lineup you have here is Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Deathstroke, who, actually we forgot to mention
we
that
see the Lex
in this
Luthor
epilogue. Yes, Lex Luthor has escaped from prison. He's on his big super yacht. Deathstroke comes on a little rowboat, rides up there, and then they talk about Lex tells Deathstroke that Batman is Bruce Wayne. They pretty much decide to start the Injustice League, right?
Well, no, they don't because that's from the Whedon version. It's like, isn't it time we had a League of our own? That's gone.
Yeah, they cut that line. But
all they say is, well, I want you to do something for me, and it's Bruce Wayne is Batman as Bruce Wayne, setting up a Ben Affleck Deathstroke movie that we'll probably never see.
Yeah, and then they pop a bottle of Cristal and they get all crazy on the yacht.
Eyes and legs.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the nightmare. So Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Deathstroke, Mera, and the big shocker, Joker.
Like we all kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, Jared Leto's Joker.
I didn't know it was coming like this. Yeah, but
so basically, this scene is a glimpse that like all the heroes, are in really dire straits. Superman is evil. We now know because Zack Snyder has revealed his intentions for future Justice Leagues. But man, I don't want to get too much into it because chances are we're not going to see it. We might not see it. There's so much. I invite you all to go online and read the interviews with him to get more of the backstory. But essentially, what his idea was, it's very messy. I guess what the plans that Snyder had and how his plans were derailed by what happened here and what he was forced to put together with this Snyder cut. But he has gone on the record saying that he had original intentions for this storyline where would have seen Bruce Wayne falling in love with Lois Lane and then them getting an argument and something Bruce does, he fails in the sense that he allows Lois to get killed.
Yeah.
And Lois' death turns Superman crazy, and through the anti-life equation, Darkseid takes over Superman, and then Superman becomes a pawn of Darkseid and like weighs waste to the earth.
Yeah.
And basically,
and then we get the nightmare verse.
Yeah.
We get the nightmare verse, right? So when we pick up here in this epilogue, we don't necessarily know that's exactly what happened, but if you want to kind of piece together, things that Zack Snyder has said that could have potentially led to this epilogue, it's definitely up for you to interpret as you see fit. Yeah. But Superman's evil. He's very angry. Batman's carrying a lot of weight.
But I'll say, just going back to what you were talking about, Matt, is that I like everything about those follow-ups except for Lois and Bruce being a thing.
Yeah, I didn't like that
if he was going to do that, they would have done in this movie, and he didn't do it because that's the one smart thing WB did, which they said don't do that. So they'd find another way for Bruce to screw up. Other than that, I like everything else. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch that.
Yeah, but also I'm kind of tired of has Superman been through enough? You've got to kill him. He's got to turn evil. It's like, can you not find anything else interesting to do with Superman?
You got to take his girl.
That's the thing, Matt, is that, we've had one movie with Superman where he's introduced, then we go right into him dying, and now we go right into him resurrection. There's no just full movie of him just being Superman, which is why
he dies, he's resurrected, he turns evil, in his intended universe.
I'd love a Man of Steel 2.
Give Henry Cavill his due as Superman. I'm begging you, please.
Where he's just being Superman.
Yeah, because we didn't do enough Henry Cavill praising in this podcast. We love Henry Cavill.
Give me the big blue Boy Scout that I know that Henry Cavill can play.
And more Ace Reporter Lois Lane, more of Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, more of The Planet, do The Fortress of Solitude, do all that stuff, and do someone like Metallo and Eisenlex if you must, and stuff like that. Just a Man of Steel 2. Full packed to the brim, getting to know Superman doing Superman stuff. His own thing. Do that for all of these characters. They did it for Aquaman. If they can do it for Shazam, they can do it for They could do another one for Superman.
Well, this was definitely Snyder Cuts is definitely an interesting approach to introducing a lot of characters at once. You need 4 hours to do it, as we've learned. You could do it. you could introduce multiple characters, but what we really learned is, over time is that all these characters deserve more of their own stories. As Superman, especially, out of everyone, a very underserved character in the DCU, in my opinion.
And I don't buy that thing where it's like, well, we just don't know what to do with Superman. It's like,
he's come on.
Comics have already figured out what to do with Superman for 80 years.
Yeah,
it exists.
He's an immigrant reporter,
right?
Is that not timely now?
He was created by Jewish men during in the mid 20th century. Like, y'all, come on, y'all.
I mean,
come on.
On that same line, I would love just a movie where it's just Ben Affleck's Batman with just him doing Batman stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the Deathstroke Batman movie sounded very interesting. That's another one you should go read up on if you don't know about it.
And then it's like with Affleck and Leto together, I'm like, I actually don't hate that now. I thought I would hate it, and I didn't. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. It was enjoyable except for that one line.
Yeah. I know the end.
If you watch,
that
was just really jarring.
But the rest of it, because there's no, but.
Anyway. All right, well, listen, guys, we have talked a lot about the Snyder Cut. There was a lot here. There's probably a ton we missed, but let's really quickly go down the horn. What do we think about the Snyder Cut? Did we enjoy it? Did we have fun? Caitlin, Martian Manhunter Bush.
I was not a person I was not anti-Snyder Cut. I just was like, why do we need this? We've already had something. We don't need to go into this a little bit more. And who personally experienced a lot of the negative sides of the internet about this, and got some pretty nasty hatred around me just being like, do we need this? ? I liked it a lot more than the 2017 one. I am afraid of the possibility of people being given 4-hour movies from now on. Yeah. That's not, please, dear God, do not let that become the norm. I wish that it could have been, even though this is not Zack Snyder's style, I wish it could have been a series. It was divided into chapters, and I very much see this as maybe a 4-part extended special edition TV series on HBO Max. That could have been very fun, and you could even gotten more content out of it.
Yeah.
But I overall, I think I enjoyed it. But after watching it within a 4-hour period, I think I was more just really ready to go to bed. I was really ready to sleep afterward. It's a long haul. It's a long haul. It does Zack Snyder justice, I think, is the ultimate take.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Did him justice. Yeah. Brian Silliman, what did you think of the Snyder Cut?
I really, really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And I think I may love it. I don't know. Yeah. This is this thing. I think I'm a little obsessed with it.
Brian, I'm the same way. I can't. You said the word. Yeah, I don't know if I wanted to say it, but
I'm like, do I love this? I
kind of loved it too.
I think I might. And the problem is not, it's like, and I don't mind a 4-hour movie. I'm like, bring it on. Give me a 4-hour. So someone whose favorite movie is Return of the King extended cut.
Yeah.
I don't have any business saying something shouldn't be 4 hours or something. So I'm like, I'll bring a bottle to the cinema. It's like, just, it's fine. But I think these characters, and it doesn't have to be, but 4 hours, but certainly for a team up like this, 3 hours, that's not so bad. It's like, and my thing is, why do you want less of this? And for me, it very much worked as, I'm glad I watched it in one sitting with a couple bathroom breaks, because it was that much of an experience. It was just, it was so far and above the POS that they put out in 2017. I can't even believe it. And the issue is now that I don't want to, I would like to go forward with this. It's like, this is an anomaly. But WB has said this isn't going to be how things are going. They're going to go back to their thing. So I'm like, I don't know. I would like to see the next one and the next one.
Yeah.
It's like, I would like more of this with these characters. And I think that's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think that it all depends on the reception, right? If we didn't think this could happen and it happened. So you never say never with this stuff, but I totally agree with you, Brian. I loved it. I thought it was, I think just it's a fascinating exploration of filmmaking because now you have these two examples that put up against each other and really dissect creative choices. So that's one thing I kind of really enjoyed about it. But at the end of the day, this is a huge love letter to DC fans.
Yeah.
And I think that they told a much better story. Every character had room to breathe. I had a smile ear to ear as I was watching it. You know, like so much fun.
But it's going to be, it's like, where do they go from here? They'll find, I don't know. I just don't, this was, well, again, you'll say we'll see how successful it is. At least the Snyder Cut has now become restore the Snyderverse. Because now that they thought, give them the 4 hours and this will satiate them and this will shut them up. No, it's had the reverse effect because now they want this to be the DCEU. And quite frankly, so do I.
I think especially if you were to do Flashpoint, which everybody says is the next Flash movie. And for those not familiar with Flashpoint, we can't get into it. We don't have enough time in the world to talk about Flashpoint, but it's a big story. But basically it's about Flash going back in time and there's some repercussions from his journey back in time. And that could very easily reset some pieces in the DCEU, which would be interesting in light of this Snyder Cut because you could save characters, situations, plot lines. Like, I don't know. The future is bright. I hope.
Maybe.
For DC.
It's
Maybe.
like, that's who knows what they're going to say. All I know is.
But there could be Snyderverse comic books, Snyderverse video games, Snyderverse animation. Like, there's so many different ways to continue the story. It doesn't necessarily have to be live action.
And that's
like,
his whole thing. It's like they have a metaverse. So why not? You can do your own things. You can do
and
your
they've been doing it for
Joker
decades, as we've said.
Yeah,
exactly.
You have you already have the Arrowverse that's still going strong. Why not also, you can have the DCU and then also have the Snyderverse. The thing is, after this, I'm confident that the fans will show up for a 3-hour cut. You know, they will. But they will not show up for Studio Notes, the movie, for 2 hour thing of that.
That's what we learned at the end of this long journey today.
Like if you're gonna insult us and apologize for to us that we like this thing, we're not going to go for it. Yeah. You know, and we'll show you with our wallets. They didn't care what the critics thought of that movie. They cared that it was a financial flop.
Yes.
So I'm sure HBO Max got some subscribers out of this.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. And with that, we'll leave it at that, guys. We made it. 4 hours.
4 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah, we did it.
Well, worry not. I got the Bifrost right here.
Yeah,
Are we ready
get us back out of here.
Ready to go home?
Get me out of Gotham.
I'm
my
ready
God.
to go home. Get us out of here. It smells here.
And a quick releve. And
yeah.
While we go, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back, so don't turn us off, even though if you do. And hold on to your butts.
Oh, God. Here we go.